I'm Jake, a 33-year-old guy, and I've been married to my wife, Lisa, for 3 years. We've been together for a total of 8 years. Recently, something happened that made me suspect Lisa might have been unfaithful. But given the circumstances, there's also a chance she's been completely loyal. I've been combing through countless cheating and relationship posts on forums these past few days, but I haven't found any clear answers. I'm lost and need some advice. Background: Lisa is a nurse at a local practice where she's worked for the past 5 years. Her hours are from 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., Monday through Friday. I work as a shift maintenance engineer at a local manufacturing plant on the second shift from 3:30 p.m. to 1:30 a.m., Sunday through Wednesday. Despite our different schedules, I thought our relationship was good. We spend the first half of each night texting and talking on the phone until she goes to bed. When I get home, she's already asleep, so I usually watch TV for an hour or two before joining her. Our sex life has always been great, and still is, as far as I can tell. We don't have children because Lisa can't carry a child to full term. That's never been an issue for me because I've never wanted kids. For several years when Lisa and I started dating, she had trouble with insomnia. She tried over-the-counter medications and several prescriptions before her doctor eventually prescribed Ambien, Zolpidem. Her lack of sleep was causing health problems and affecting her quality of life. Ambien was supposed to be a short-term solution before moving on to a different drug, but she's now been on it for about 4 years. When she first started taking it, she was groggy most of the day, but that side effect passed quickly. The other side effect, sleepwalking, has stuck around since the first week she began taking Ambien. Over the years, she's tried different medications that don't cause sleepwalking, but they don't help her sleep either. So we've dealt with the sleepwalking as best as we can together. Most of our interactions are amusing if not funny. I can't count the number of times she's gotten out of bed and walked to the kitchen for food. I've seen her stand naked as a jaybird in front of the sink eating brownies, gingerbread, pie, or any other baked good I decide to make. But I have many times watched her fix a huge bowl of cereal with milk and sit on the floor to eat it. Once she even spilled the milk, only to wake up a few hours later and sit in the wet spot to eat more cereal. She has no memory of anything she does when sleepwalking. I've seen her smoke in her sleep. Yes, she's a nurse, she knows better. Slam a beer, and even do yoga in her sleep. Nothing, however, could compare to our honeymoon flight. After we married, I took her to Europe for 4 weeks since she had never been out of the US. We boarded a flight at the Atlanta airport and departed for Paris, France. About 2 hours into the flight, she took an Ambien, and I was already drifting off to sleep after taking a Dramamine. I was sound asleep when I felt some liquid splash on me. Lisa had ordered a glass of wine and spilled it. When I sat up to figure out what was going on, I saw she was sleepwalking. She'd not only spilled the wine on me, but also on her pants. She then stood up on a crowded plane and dropped her pants. I asked what she was doing, and she said she was taking her pants off to let them dry. That would have been fine, even logical, if not for the fact that all she had on beneath her pants was a pair of panties that said juicy across the back. For the rest of the flight, she continued to sleepwalk. I had to keep an airline blanket around her and escort her back and forth to the restroom. We even went through customs in Paris with her still sleepwalking. Customs didn't ask her a word, but grilled me like I was a member of Al-Qaeda. Long story short, she lost consciousness somewhere over the Atlantic and woke up in our Paris hotel room with no memory of what happened. I had to tell that story to give a prime example of what she's capable of when she sleepwalks. I have no idea why she never wakes up and never remembers anything. But over the years, she has said some very odd things to me while sleepwalking. Some of the things she's revealed to me later have been things I wasn't necessarily supposed to know. I don't mean that she's ever told me anything she meant to intentionally hide. For example, she had been talking with one of her girlfriends, Jenny, about the state of her marriage. Jenny didn't want things getting out, so Lisa was sworn to secrecy. So, when I asked Lisa, "Is Jenny planning to file for divorce or is it Tom?" she looked shocked and asked how I knew anything about that. I could give other examples of things she's disclosed about people and situations, but nothing she'd ever said even hinted at infidelity. In the name of full disclosure, I have to admit, she has said many things that made absolutely no sense at all. When a sleepwalker tells you, "I wrecked your Lamborghini yesterday, but you can drive my car to work," or, "Did you get rid of those monkeys in the garage?" We don't have a garage, or monkeys, and I wish I had a Lamborghini. A few nights ago, I got off work and came home to watch highlights of the NBA playoff games. I was sitting in front of the TV, eating some food before bed, when Lisa walked past me into the kitchen. As usual, she grabbed a few slices of the sourdough bread I made the day before and sat down on the love seat to eat. I asked her if the bread was good, and she said it was. I asked if she needed anything to drink, and she said she could get it herself if she did. I went back to focusing on the TV when she said something I didn't catch, so I asked her to repeat what she'd said. She replied that not listening to her was one of the things that pissed her off the most about me. Then she dropped a bombshell, saying that Mike, name changed, always listened to her, and that's why she loved talking to him so much. I asked her who Mike was, and she said he was a patient she couldn't screw until the doctor he was seeing released him due to conflict of interest concerns. To say I was shocked would be an understatement, but I had to keep in mind she was sleepwalking. Still, hearing her say such harsh things hurt my feelings, true or not. She's never said anything like that about anyone, real or fictional, before, and I'm a bit perplexed about what to do. Normally, the next chance we'd have to talk, I would have asked at the very least who Mike is. But I didn't even tell her what she'd said to me the night before. It's been bothering me for days now, but I'm not really sure what direction to proceed. Due to our different work shifts, if either of us wanted to stray, we would have the time and opportunity. And while I guess it would be a conflict of interest for her to be involved with a patient, I know patients do hit on her. As far as I know, she's been open and honest anytime a patient crossed a line. Once or twice, that honesty has made me want to go crack a few skulls, but the practice she works for is excellent at handling unwanted attention. The thing I'm concerned about is if there's a patient, named Mike or anyone else, that she wants attention from. Would I know? Point blank, I haven't had any reason not to trust her our entire relationship until she revealed she wanted to screw Mike. I've had no reason to snoop until a few nights ago, and due to the fact that what was said was spoken while she was sleepwalking, I'm not sure I have reason now. I'm not sure how to proceed, but I have no moral qualms about snooping. I'm just not sure what and where to snoop. Obviously, her cell phone is a prime candidate, but she has her own phone on her own plan, so getting access to her phone or the bill would not be easy. I can't exactly follow her around to see if she's meeting with anyone. If she's off work and I'm off work, she's home. It's the time I spend at work that concerns me. After trying to follow the Catch a Cheater handbook, I need some suggestions. I don't know what good a voice-activated recorder at home or in her car would do. Is that something I should just try to see if it catches her doing anything shady? Hidden cameras? House? Car? Should I try to get access to her laptop to snoop? Until the Mike screw comment, I trusted my wife 99%. No human is worthy of 100% trust. And honestly, the vast majority of me trusts her now. But I don't want to miss what was a red flag or flags now, only to raise the white flag when I've wasted years down the road. Frankly, she's either cheating or she isn't. And if she is, I don't even care with whom or about the specifics. Cheating is a deal breaker that I wouldn't even begin to tolerate. I just need to get this off my mind, and the only way to do that is to prove she is or isn't cheating. I've had this rolling around in my head for days, and due to the specifics of how things were revealed, I need help. If I took her for a polygraph test, I'm not even sure things would register true or false due to issues with her subconscious. I can feel this beginning to cause a rift between us, but I don't want to just come right out and ask because cheaters almost always lie. And I know I have one chance to get to the bottom of this before she feels like I'm on to her. She's acting normally, but I've spent days reading stories about spouses giving no clues they were cheating. Any advice is appreciated. Oh, and if you have any crazy ambient stories or can suggest a new sleep aid that she might use instead, please comment. Update 1. For those who have commented and offered assistance, I sincerely appreciate the help. Just typing it out, I knew I'd be letting some readers down with no mention of catching my wife buck naked with some guy going to town on each other. But I know my story is really perplexing because I didn't get the usual 90% of comments telling me to go no contact and divorce her. That is what will happen if I find out she is cheating, I assure you. I just have to make sure one way or another. Anyway, based on the advice given, I purchased 3 voice-activated recorders. I plan to put one in her car, along with one GPS tracker. Any advice on where to place it in her car to record the most talking would be appreciated. Will sound from a TV or radio activate the recorders? I'm going to hide one in our bedroom and another in the living room where the TV is. They are due to arrive via Amazon on Tuesday at my job. My plan is to check them each day for 3 weeks. If nothing suspicious turns up, I will reevaluate things. If I feel she is hiding something, I'll go the PI route. If I feel like the whole mic thing was the ramblings of a sleepwalker, I'll just let it go. Thanks again to all who gave advice. Update. To give a brief recap, my wife, who is a chronic sleepwalker, said something to me in her sleep that made me suspect she might have been unfaithful or harbored thoughts of being unfaithful with some guy named Mike. Assuming everyone has read that, I'll just say I ordered 3 voice-activated recorders, which arrived promptly the day after Memorial Day, US. I strategically placed one in her car in what I deemed to be an ideal location to pick up any conversation she might have. Another one I placed close to our bed. My thinking was twofold. It could capture any physical betrayal or record more things she might say in her sleep. The third voice recorder found its place in the living room, where she watched TV the most. Every night after work, I checked the audio files on each one before going to bed. For the first 2 days, the only thing I learned was that my wife loves to sing in the car when she's alone and curses at other drivers just like I do, even though we both know the other drivers can't hear us. I even called her a few times just to ensure the recorder picked up her end of the conversation. She called Jenny to have drinks after work, which was nothing out of the ordinary, and nothing in her conversations with Jenny or anyone else made me suspect she'd been out creeping or had any interest in doing so. I was actually feeling a lot better about things. The next time my wife and I got to spend some time together, I noticed she was on her phone texting someone, but I didn't ask who. She smirked at what she was reading and even laughed out loud once too. When I asked her what was funny, she replied it was nothing really, and I'd have to be in on the joke to understand why it was funny. I left it at that, but it did make me wonder who she was texting. 2 days later, I checked the VAR in my wife's car, and to my surprise, she took a call from someone I couldn't figure out who she was talking to. I could tell it was with someone she hadn't known long, and almost certainly a guy. She seemed to be letting him do most of the talking until I heard her ask if he was happily married. Whatever he said, her reply was, "Me too." 2 married people talking on the phone, and they feel the same way about their marriages. It wasn't looking good. I recorded her taking his calls in her car 2 times before she called him one night in bed. I listened to the recording of them having phone sex with my wife moaning loudly, begging to see him. My blood pressure had to be through the roof at that point. I was furious, but I couldn't let her know. Every damn time she saw me, she was extra friendly, which made me even madder. The day after they had phone sex, it happened again, and I wasn't sure how much more I could take. But before hanging up, they agreed to meet Sunday afternoon after I went to work. She said she'd bring him to our house, then take him back to his car. God, I was so pissed off. I wanted to go straight to her and curse her out, but I really wanted to see if she'd go through with it. I assumed this guy had to be Mike. But as I'd never suspected her of cheating before, I suddenly realized she could have been banging tons of guys behind my back. Mike could have been the flavor of the month. I had no idea what this Mike guy looked like or how well she knew him, but it was obvious she wanted to know him very well. I knew damn well I wasn't going to work that night. I called the plant manager and let him know to have others on call to cover my duties and that I wouldn't be in. Yesterday afternoon, I left for work at my usual time. Instead of heading straight to work, I decided to go to a restaurant for dinner alone. After my meal, I went to my brother's apartment to borrow his car. My wife and I texted back and forth as we usually did, and nothing seemed suspicious. But I wrote that off to her not breaking any typical patterns to keep me from being wary. They were due to meet at 8:30 p.m. somewhere, and then they were supposed to come back to our place. I parked down the street, waiting to see if my wife would leave. Sure enough, at 8 p.m., she came out of the house, got into her car, and pulled off. I leisurely tailed her to a public park where she pulled into the parking lot. I couldn't pull in without her noticing, so I continued on, turned around, and headed back to a parking lot across the road from the park. I parked just as some guy got into the passenger seat of her car and closed the door. I couldn't get a good look, and I had to duck down so as not to be seen as she pulled out to head back to our house. I knew where she was going, but I wanted to tail her closely enough to see who got out at the house. Unfortunately, some safety-conscious passive driver caused me to catch a stoplight, and I lost sight of my wife's car. When I finally arrived at the house, her car was parked in the circular driveway with the passenger door facing the house. I had my phone out recording, trying my damnedest to see who was in the car with her. When the door opened, the light didn't come on. Having been in her car many times over the previous week, I had to suspect that was intentional, or the bulb blew at a very inopportune time. She got out of the car and went around to greet whoever was with her as they walked inside. The figure looked to be male and fairly tall like me, but again, it was getting dark. I didn't want to go rushing up to my house right after them. Whatever they were planning to do, I wanted them comfortable and at ease. I actually texted my wife to say that we'd had a robotic welder lose all of its PLC programming and that I'd be very late getting home. She messaged back to say she was sorry to hear that, but she was going to bed early anyway, as she needed her sleep. I actually felt my damn eye twitch when I read that response. I knew damn well what she'd be doing in our bed so early, and I was inventing curse words thinking about it. I got out of my car and grabbed the aluminum bat out of my back seat. It was more for self-protection, just in case the guy was some mountain of a man. I didn't want to bring my gun because I didn't know what I was capable of doing. I walked to my front door and could hear music inside. I assumed the music would help cover the sound of my keys and turning the lock. I opened the door and could see lights on in the living room, where the music was playing, but there was no one there. Suddenly, I heard giggling upstairs, and I walked up the staircase to the top floor. When I reached the second floor, I heard giggling coming from our bedroom and headed that way. I opened the door and turned the light on to see two people in bed, with the covers pulled up high over their heads. I ran over and grabbed the top of the comforter with my left hand so I could punch Mike with my right. I yanked the covers back, and there, looking up at me, were my brother, the owner of the car I was driving around, and his wife grinning from ear to ear, completely clothed. For half a second I thought my brother, his wife, and my wife were involved in some kind of Branch Davidian's cult sex thing. Hundreds of questions went through my mind at once as I wondered what the hell they were doing there. Suddenly someone tapped me on the right shoulder, and I caught a glimpse of my youngest brother and sister, just before they and others coated me in silly string, until every can was empty. I was then tackled by every male member of my family, and tickled by most every female member of my family, all laughing hysterically. My wife walked over as I lay on the floor, still confused as hell, and gave me a huge kiss. That is the result. I'm sorry the ending isn't some juicy bit of tawdriness and drama. I do not know 100% if my wife has been or will be faithful. So those needing closure aren't getting it. Neither am I, but I'm okay with it. What happened? My wife saw the post. Well, actually, a younger coworker of my mom's heard the post read on a YouTube channel and pulled it up on Reddit to show my mom. This coworker was an avid follower of that YouTube channel and had a knack for remembering interesting and unique stories. She had taken particular note of the honeymoon sleepwalk story because it was so unusual and strikingly familiar to her. She had been working with my mom when my wife and I got married, and the story had stuck with her as it was quite unique. She remembered the details vividly and immediately recognized the similarities when she heard it again on YouTube. With a mix of curiosity and excitement, she showed my mom the post, pointing out the striking resemblance to the story she had heard years ago during their casual office chats. I knew none of my family members or my wife used Reddit, so I thought nothing about letting readers know what happened on our trip to Europe. I considered it a safe space to share our experiences, thinking it was highly unlikely that anyone we knew would come across it. But apparently the story was unique and memorable enough to be remembered by someone who had a front row seat to our early days as a married couple. My mom, with her curiosity piqued, read the post, and without hesitation, called my wife to point blank, ask her if she was cheating on me. "Thanks, Mom." My wife swore up and down she never had or ever would cheat on me. She was emphatic and sincere, knowing how much my mom's opinion mattered. That was good enough for my mom since she adores my wife. She trusts her implicitly and has always seen her as the perfect match for me. My mom's protective instincts kicked in, and she decided to meet my wife to discuss the matter further in person. So, those two met for a drink after work, and my mom showed my wife the post. From what I have been told, my wife's initial reaction was sadness that something she'd said, even while sleepwalking, had caused me grief and made me doubt our relationship. She was visibly upset and kept apologizing for the unintended turmoil. She never imagined that her unconscious mumblings could have such a profound impact on me. I'm told her second reaction was to get pissed that I didn't just come and talk to her. She was annoyed that I had kept my worries to myself and had let them fester instead of addressing them directly with her. She felt that our communication should be strong enough to handle such issues without resorting to anonymous online posts. She went back and forth thinking things through from my perspective and her own. She could see why what she'd said might not have been too pleasant to hear, especially out of context. Knowing she wasn't cheating, she then found the whole situation funny and planned to tell me she'd read the post and promised to do anything I needed to assure me she had never been unfaithful and never would be. She wanted to put my mind at ease and restore my confidence in our relationship. My family, it seems, had other plans. Thanks, Mom. My mom enlisted my wife and the rest of my family to play a joke on me. It was my mom who my wife was texting and laughing with that day. The joke I wasn't in on was the joke they were all planning to pull on me. They wanted to make a big family gathering out of the entire thing, turning what could have been a serious discussion into a lighthearted event. There were over 30 friends and relatives at our house last night. Yes, it was great to see everyone. Not so great to have that many people see me look like a dumbass, but I'll get over it. Cars were parked far down the street, and everyone had shuttled in right after I left for work. They had coordinated everything perfectly, ensuring I wouldn't suspect a thing. They meticulously planned every detail, from the moment I left the house to the final reveal. What I didn't know was that my siblings were following me everywhere I went last night, acting as lookouts to make sure the surprise wasn't ruined. They took their roles seriously, keeping tabs on my every move to avoid any mishaps. My sister had been parked at the subdivision entrance keeping tabs on who came and went. She had a clear view of the entire neighborhood and reported any unusual activity to the rest of the family. My brother later told me it was all he could do to keep a straight face when I came to borrow his car. I had no idea that at that very moment, my relatives were setting up things in the backyard for a night of food and fun, decorating and preparing for the big reveal. They transformed the backyard into a festive venue, complete with lights, decorations, and a spread of my favorite foods. Oh, and I need to explain, Mike. As stated in my initial post, that is the alias I gave, and not the name my wife used. One of the first things my wife asked me when we had a minute was what name she actually said she wanted to screw. The name she actually said was Conrad, which was a unique enough name that I didn't want to post it. When I told her the name, she instantly knew why she'd said that name and explained why. Apparently, there is a TV show called The Resident. I don't watch TV except for sports, but my wife, being a nurse, loves medical shows. She explained that she had been binge-watching the show and had become quite enamored with the character named Conrad, played by some actor named Matt Chukri. Don't ask me how to pronounce that. I had to Google it to spell it correctly. She laughed, recalling how immersed she had been in the storyline and how it must have seeped into her subconscious. But the night in question, when my wife declared her desire to screw Conrad, she'd been binge-watching the show. She explained it better than I ever could. In one episode, Conrad had to be treated by his coworkers, and he wasn't allowed to do anything related to his job until he was released. It was a dramatic and intense scene that had clearly left an impression on her. I can't get mad at her for finding an actor hot, and I doubt she'll ever meet him, so I'm definitely letting it go. I know that we all have our celebrity crushes, and it's harmless fun, but Matt Chukri, if you're reading this, stay the hell away from my wife, pretty boy. I don't care how good a listener you are. By updating Reddit with the locations of the VARs, my wife was able to come up with some dialogue to make me think she was talking to some other guy. She crafted her conversations carefully, ensuring they sounded just authentic enough to spark my suspicion without raising too many red flags. I thought the conversations were rather short for two people supposedly smitten with each other. She used the recorders to make me think she was straying. No, I'm not even mad. That's why she was being extra nice. She was feeling bad for making me worry and being untruthful. To learn the phone sex was her holding a recorder and doing her best OnlyFans impersonation made us both laugh until our sides hurt. She said the hardest part was not laughing and giving herself away. She told me she had only planned to do that once, but realized she hadn't said when and where she and Mike were going to meet, so she had to fake the phone sex again the next night to give me pertinent information. Each time, she had to maintain her composure, trying not to burst into laughter and ruin the entire act. I must say, I hope she's able to maintain her career in the medical field. But if the going gets tough, I learned my wife is able to give good phone. After things calmed down, we all had steaks grilled by my dad and tables full of food. I was so befuddled I had 5 shots of Patron to calm me down and stayed half lit the rest of the night. The drinks helped me relax and process everything that had happened. If my mom hadn't been there, I would have gotten so baked. Thanks, Mom. My brother took his car back to the apartment, and he and his wife drove my car back to the house while we were eating. They were in on the prank too, ensuring my car was ready for the next phase of the joke. Then they proceeded to cover my car in toilet paper, shaving cream, and a giant sign on the back that said, "Honk if you want to screw Mike." They had a blast decorating the car, laughing at the thought of my reaction. No, I'm not driving the car like that. Mike can go screw himself. All of this was recorded on multiple phones. My family made sure to capture every moment for posterity. But I've already told my family if I see any of it on YouTube or any other site, even Reddit, I will sue. I had to draw the line somewhere, and public humiliation wasn't part of the deal. At any rate, it is very funny to me now. But during the time I thought my wife might be cheating, that was not an enjoyable experience. The uncertainty and doubt were agonizing. That being said, my wife and I did talk. We had a heart-to-heart conversation to clear the air and rebuild trust. The only thing she insisted on was that I did write out an update, even if recent events have been a slight blow to my ego. She deserves that much. Obviously, I guess you all do too. Our phones and laptops are open books to each other from here on out. We will both keep our GPS features connected for safety and peace of mind from this point forward. This way, we'll always know where the other is, and it will help prevent any future misunderstandings. So, as big a dumbass as I turned out looking like, some good came out of the situation. I realize many will be flat out angry having listened to this and not getting a dose of salacious cheating drama. People often crave sensational stories and the thrill of a dramatic revelation, but life's true complexities often lie in the mundane. But I'm happy to still be married to my faithful wife. The relief I felt knowing she had never strayed was immense. It was like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. The trust I have in her, which was momentarily shaken, was restored and even strengthened. I've already considered that if she ever chooses to cheat, after this, I have like 0% chance of catching her. She's shown she can be quite the actress when she wants to be. But as stated in the original post comments, I trusted her 99% before Conrad tried to break up my marriage. Conrad was just an innocent name caught up in a bizarre series of events, a character from a TV show who inadvertently became a part of our lives. IVDJTM will never trust anyone 100%, but my wife is now as close to that level as anyone can ever be in my life. She has proven her loyalty and love for me in the most unexpected ways. Her commitment to our marriage, even through this crazy ordeal, has been unwavering. Sorry for troubling readers and asking for advice I didn't VJTMT need. I think I got very good advice. The community's support meant a lot to me during those confusing times. The advice and support from everyone who read my post were invaluable, even if I ended up not needing it in the way I thought I would. I just couldn't VJTMT have foreseen things taking the turn they did. Anybody want to buy 3 voice-activated recorders? Hardly used. They VJTMT served their purpose, and I have no further use for them. They've become a symbol of a misunderstanding that we've DJTMD moved past, and IVJTMD rather not keep them around as a reminder. I think this whole ordeal has brought us closer together. My family, including me, are practical jokers. And while this was an intense experience, it turned out to be one of the most memorable pranks in our family history. It started as a serious issue, but ended in laughter and bonding. Me not listening. That VDJTM's one of the reasons why I believe her. After we discussed Conrad and cleared that up, I asked her if she thought I didn't VJTT listen to her. She responded with a huh? I was about to point out the irony when I realized she was messing with me, lol. IVDJTM meme, known for saying huh whenever I hear the word deaf, which almost always makes people repeat themselves. She used my own tactic on me. It was a playful reminder that we both need to work on our communication. But yes, she did say there are times when I am listening, but not truly hearing her. We both agreed that we could improve our communication and listening skills, and are working on that. It's a work in progress, but we're committed to making it better. We VJTMV recognize the need for more open and effective communication, and we VJTM are actively making changes. It was strange to get all worked up, and then suddenly, nothing made sense anymore, for about 5 very long seconds. That VJ or TM's the best way I can sum up what I felt. The confusion and sudden clarity were overwhelming. It was like my mind was racing to catch up with reality. Honestly, to grasp that the entire thing was just a joke, which made reality feel real again, was such a huge relief, lol. The weight of the world lifted off my shoulders in an instant. I went from feeling betrayed and heartbroken to understanding and relieved almost instantaneously. My family on both sides loves playing practical jokes, and I must admit, this one will go down in family history. The planning and execution were flawless. Every detail was meticulously planned and perfectly executed. IVDJTM fine with being remembered as the guy who found out his wife was NVGTMET cheating and that she helped orchestrate a joke on him. ITDDDATM's a badge of honor in our family. We all had a fantastic time that night. We celebrated, laughed, and created new memories. The whole experience has been a roller coaster of emotions, but in the end, it brought us closer together. We laughed, we joked, and we made new memories that night. This practical joke will definitely be one for the books in our family history. The camaraderie and love we share make all the pranks worth it. The love and bond we have as a family have only grown stronger through this experience.